Okay, lots of people are asking, what is chair flying and how do you do it? The most important thing about chair flying is that you're flying scenarios instead of maneuvers. Like for your flight testing, you have to do a lot of maneuvers, and you're never going to save your life by doing a maneuver. But if you practice upset scenarios that are real common, and you practice these scenarios and their proper input for proper correction, that'll save your life. It's already saved my life. My life about 3 times, my son's life twice. And because certain things are going to come up. You're going to get too slow, and hopefully you catch it quick enough, and you automatically push that stick forward. And don't try to lift the wing with your ailerons. That's what the purpose of chair flying is. Now, chair flying is difficult to do if you have no sight view. You've not been in the air. You've not taken off, even as a passenger in a light plane. So you always want to try to get some flight time. Always get CFI time if you can. But there's so many people that can't afford it, but they have a passion. They're going to do it. Okay. Try to get at least a little bit of time with somebody so you have the sight view so that you can actually practice pulling back on the stick, taking off. But I always start my chair flying, and I do it open-eyed. Some people close their eyes. I can visualize it thoroughly. I see exactly what I see in the cockpit whenever I have my eyes open. I get a stick, I've got my fake throttle here in my hand, got my fake rudders on my feet, hope you can see my feet, but these are my flying shoes, and I sit there, and I got a loud furnace. Let me shut that off. So I just sit here and do a normal taxi, sometimes a little bit of a taxi, but mostly just a normal takeoff. And bring the throttle up. I noticed on several people learning to fly, I've noticed that they're a little nervous about just shoving the throttle all the way to the wall and leaving it there. You don't want to be going up and down with the throttle, even when you're practicing. Even when you're just high-speed taxiing, flying the tail, you want to bring the throttle up, maybe pull it back to where you're not going to be going to takeoff speed, but don't go back and forth. You're not going back and forth with it. And whenever it's time to do a crow hop, and a crow hop is off the ground, not just barely getting it off the ground. No, you pop it off the ground, climb 15, 20 feet, level off, make sure it levels, pull the throttle back as you push the nose over. Okay, that's a safe crow hop. But you push that throttle up and you leave it there until you retard it. For that purpose. You don't go back and forth with it. That shows that you're nervous and you're not confident. You want to confidently push that throttle up, leave it there. Okay, so you push the throttle all the way up, lock it, and I put this hand, I always hang on to the throttle. Always want to have your hand on the throttle, because I have had where I didn't quite lock it enough on climb out, and all of a sudden my engine died. And luckily, it was just the throttle had dropped. So I keep my hand on my throttle. But bring my throttle up. I usually leave my elevator about neutral and then give it a nudge forward within about 3.5 to 4 seconds. I can see how fast, and my tail pops up. And that's actually the sitting position I'm in now, is my tail's popped up. And then about 3 seconds later is usually, I just pop back on the stick like that and forward again, just a little bit to nudge it up into the air, and it almost always takes right off, and then I push it slightly forward, and I still continue to climb really fast. And now it's important to watch my airspeed. I don't want my airspeed getting below 40, and 40 is VX, the best climb over distance, and that's what I shoot for. But then it's an ultralight, so a gust of wind can stall you pretty quick if it's very strong. You shouldn't be in gusting winds, but you never know. So I usually try to keep it above 45 miles an hour. Anyways, I'm getting long-winded. And I do a climb out, and I just keep my eye on about 40 to 45 miles an hour, unless it's a little bouncy. If it starts bouncing a little bit, and I'm feeling myself getting shoved around a little bit, I put my nose down, and I get it up to closer to 50 miles an hour. Because that means you could get something coming, gusting from behind you, and stalling, or coming from a side and stalling one wing. So I usually speed up my climb out. Anyways, this is all just chair flying, and I'm visualizing this, and I practice a normal flight. Then I'll do another scenario. Then I do other scenarios. For instance, on climb out, all of a sudden, cough, cough. Instantly push the stick forward and start looking, where can I land? It can't be more than 10 degrees side to side. I don't care what's in front of me. I'm going to find the best thing within 10 degrees. If I only have 15 seconds, 20 seconds to pick a place, I'm only 50 feet in the air, 100 feet in the air, engine's coughing, I instantly push the stick forward. Neutral ailerons, stick forward, and then the rudder. If one wing's going to drop or something, I pay attention. If I happen to get my airspeed a little too slow, and because I'm looking, and a wing wants to drop, you got to kick the opposite rudder. You know, you want to hit right rudder if the left wing drops, vice versa. Anyways, you don't throw the aileron. Anyways, but that's all things. You practice all these scenarios while you're sitting down and you're looking out and you're visualizing it. For instance, with me, it's a dirt road that runs at an angle like this, right off the end of the airstrip, and there's no power lines there, and it's fairly clear on each side. That's where I would go. There's also a field to the right, depending on how far, but it is a downhill field towards woods, so we got to be careful there, how close I am to those woods. And then behind the farm, but there's a farm right off the end of the runway, directly in the path. There's a fairly large farm, and if you're high enough, there's big fields behind it, all around it. Nice off to the left. So that's the most probable place, unless I'm barely like 50 feet high. Then it's just right there to the road and bank, just a little bit, very little bank, probably just ease it right down onto the road. But these are some of the scenarios, and you practice them all while you're sitting in your chair. You're working the throttle, you're working your stick and rudder and throttle. That's chair flying. Okay, now I'll give you a couple of scenarios that are real scenarios that I had happen to me, and I'd already practiced them many times. So it was no issue. It was stressful, somewhat, but it was no issue because I'd practiced them so much. Right here, out of my little airstrip that nobody's landed on because it's too short and trees. So not yet has anybody landed on it, but I do flyovers, and I did a candy drop. It's in one of my videos. I'm climbing out the far end over 70-foot trees, and I'm pulling back. I'm at 6,200 RPM, and all of a sudden, bam, my engine starts rattling like crazy. I thought it was coming apart instantly, and I'm banked to the right, nose high, and instantly, I go neutral aileron, stick forward, and level the wings using my rudder, left rudder to bring up my right wing, and nose down, and I'm looking for what trees I'm going to land in, because I thought my engine was coming apart. But watching my airspeed, I realized, okay, I'm maintaining a little altitude. I can make that little, very porous little field right there, brushy field. And then I realized I'm not descending. I'm at 40 miles an hour. I'm at 5,600 RPM. So I just started working it, and I found a sweet spot where my engine would run 5,800 RPM. And I just maintained just over 40 miles an hour, so that I was climbing even a little bit, maybe 40 feet per minute is all I'm climbing, and barely banked it towards my airstrip. Took me a long time to get back to the airstrip, and I finally got to 500 feet as I was getting to the airstrip, 9 miles away. But anyways, that's one scenario. Another scenario, stuff was rolling in and I wasn't really looking at that. I was just looking at what was immediate in the area, and really sweet, smooth air. But now and then I hit some turbulence. It was pretty abrupt. And then on my way back to the airstrip, I hit some real strong turbulence again. And then all of a sudden, 55 miles an hour, my attitude was still the same. I was descending about 500 feet per minute. So I pull back on the stick to get, bring my, go full throttle. I was almost full throttle. I go to full throttle, pull back on the stick a little bit, and my airspeed goes down to about 45-ish, but I'm still descending 400, and last I looked, 490 feet per minute, and then all lift dropped. My airspeed dropped off. My airspeed was 0, and engine full throttle, airspeed 0, and I'm falling. I'm lighting my seat. Well, the only thing to do is wait for the air to catch back up. I'm in something that's hitting me from behind or something. I'm in a big swirl or something. Stick forward slightly is all I can do, and leave the throttle and just wait. It was about 2 seconds. But if I would have panicked and done something, like pulled back or done something else, well, it would have been really bad. But I just slightly stick forward, leave the full throttle, and when that wind hit me, that was dangerous. It hit me hard. It just hit me, and it started driving me up about 800 feet per minute. And when it hit hard, it was like hitting a wall. But anyways, you chair fly for all kinds of scenarios. And those are some of the ones that I've had happen.